Hello, welcome. Thanks for joining me, providing another book brief for you. In this case, we are focusing on the wonderful book called Landscape Painting Inside and Out by Kevin Macpherson. This is an interesting book that presents a couple of really good ideas, concepts, and tips and so forth. The main objectives and expectations that you should find as a result of this brief are an understanding of the big ideas presented to the world in this book, the structure, notes, and favorite quotes that I mined from the book. Plus, we have a little bit of a bonus this time around. We're going to show you the list of incredible questions that painters can ask themselves to improve their work that we compiled, that were found in this book. Now, the big ideas, there are three of them really. One, indoor and outdoor painting are complementary experiences. As memories of nature breathe life into your studio work, the disciplined approaches and principles you practice indoors will enable you to attack the canvas outdoors in new ways. This is a direct quote. Big idea number two is that the subtle secondary focus in this book is on cataloging effective questions that a painter can ask themselves to help elevate performance at all times spent in front of an easel. And then from my vantage point, the big idea number three is the massive amounts of practical tips, exercises, tactics, and ideas which are offered, which can be applied throughout the lifetime of a painter. And I'd be doing you a disservice if I didn't emphasize that I am a huge fan of this book. I know you probably can't see it because my background feature, but it is so rich in incredible ideas that are helpful that it's going to take a little bit longer than 10 minutes to get through the summary, probably closer to 15 or so. We're going to jump into the structure, notes, and favorite quotes. The book is broken up into 7 chapters. There is an introduction and an afterword and index where the author, Kevin Macpherson, goes through just a brief vignette of his life and some of his more philosophical ideas as it relates to living as a painter. I'll also add, this is the first time I'm doing one of these briefs on a book that was authored by a contemporary artist. Kevin still paints, from what I can gather based upon his online presence. He's still quite busy, and his paintings are amazing. So I would encourage you to check them out. Some of my notes, and like I mentioned, this book was pretty dense and rich, despite the fact that it was only, about 150 pages or so, maybe 130. And there's a lot of really good prints of his work in here, which are amazing to see as well in full color. I've also noticed that this book retails anywhere from between like $97 to $150. So if you can find a copy either at a swap meet or a flea market or some sort of discount used bookstore, I would encourage you to pick it up. It's I would have to say it's the best painting book with the actual painter in mind that I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot of different books. In chapter 1, he kind of cuts through some ideas as it relates to how to manage your studio, what sort of tools you're going to want to have if you're not familiar with all the tools that a painter might have access to. Chapter 2, he goes through some techniques and from the basics to more advanced techniques. And then there's a whole bunch of valuable information in every chapter. He introduces in chapter 3 the theory of relativity and how that applies to color theory and the arrangement of shapes and so many other things when you're painting, the arrangement and use of lines and so on and so forth. In chapter 4, he goes through some details that are really helpful with regards to the planning and painting process itself. Chapter 5, he focuses on painting outdoors. In chapter 6, he talks about and transitions to painting inside. But here is where the core big idea of the book is shared with the most depth and detail. And really, in his mindset, he doesn't say it this way, but he describes the practice of painting plein air outside on site and the relationship of that to studio work almost is like a yin and a yang. They are separate but whole. If you want a fully integrated and effective painting practice that's going to help you become the best painter you can become, you need to do both. And he goes through that in some detail and provides supporting ideas. It's really an incredible chapter. Now, there is so much more, but I would encourage you, if you want to view more details before maybe you seek to pick up this book, I will put a full book summary and executive brief out on my Patreon page. I do make that available to anybody who has subscribed to my page, and the minimum donation amount or Patreon amount is or contribution amount is $1 per month. So, and there's other briefs there and a whole bunch of tutorials. So, if you wish, feel free to join me there. But hopefully, this helps. I also have a list of favorite quotes. Great painters of the past created thoughtful art in their studios with no loss of vitality and spontaneity we associate with painting outdoors. I believe anyone willing to go through the awkward learning curve can obtain the general knowledge necessary to get started creating art. Your studio is your research lab. Explore, experiment, innovate, mix up your routine, take a chance. My favorite studio has perfect light, countless subjects, and endless space. It's the great outdoors. So some great quotes from this fantastic painter and teacher. And Kevin Macpherson, he kind of hides these questions throughout the whole book. So I had to mine for these, and I may have missed a couple of them. I listed here about half of the questions that I pinned and then incorporated into my my brief. And here are many of them. What is the character of this shape? These are all questions that you can ask yourself as you're observing your subject and trying to complete a painting that may help you elevate the end result of your painting quite a bit. What overall direction best and simply represents this shape? Horizontal, diagonal, vertical? Will it elevate the painting if I exaggerate this? Because naturally, we don't need to necessarily paint what we see. We could always exaggerate or omit or what have you. How do the lines in this painting direct the viewer's attention? Do the lines direct the attention to the focal point? Is there a dominance of horizontal, vertical, or diagonal lines? And does the dominance communicate the mood you want to convey? Now, that's an interesting question, because there is some science behind this. We know that diagonal lines will create moods that are kind of coincide with disturbing feelings or agitation or what have you. Horizontal lines will tend to provide a calming sensation psychologically, some painting instructors will say. Vertical lines create the indication of height naturally, but also awe in some cases, and perhaps separation or loneliness. So these are all things to consider, and they impact different people differently. So, it's worth thinking about. How few shapes can you use to portray your subject? Such an incredibly important question. I feel may help you simplify things. What overall value dominates the scene? What range of values depicts the atmosphere the best and sets the mood you want to convey? Is it high key or low key? Within the chosen range, how few values can you use to describe the subject? Another possible way that we might simplify things when we're painting. So some incredible questions, and there's quite a few more that are found within this book and with the full executive summary. So I want to thank you for your time. Thanks for tuning in. If you get the opportunity to do so, check out some of my tutorials and instructional videos and just my random thoughts and so on and so forth. You can always view my work on my website at thomasmichaelnieman.com. And I hope you stay safe and stay well. Cheers.